Testing. Okay, looks like the audio's working all good. I'm going to be doing a little bit of sketching today. I'm going to show you some exercises in how to paint some figures. So someone asked me, Philippe asked me, one of the members of the group asked whether I could go through just some exercises on how I paint figures, and I'll show you what I do, and just some quick tips with that. And then I'll also go through painting that I sort of sketched in before from this reference photo, but I thought I'll go through and edit the photo a little bit, change it up so that it looks a bit different. So I'll get straight into it with the exercise, and this isn't going to take very long. It's probably only going to take a few minutes to run through it, maybe 10 minutes. We'll see how we go. So one of the things I do when I'm practicing figures is essentially, if you pick up a little bit of paint on the palette, so any kind of paint, it can be a really light paint like a cerulean blue. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a little bit down to this page. So we'll add a blob like that. And what we can do is just vary that blob so that it goes on a slant. So you see this one, it's kind of just standing, it's just completely straight. And then that one's on a bit of a slant, and then we can continue doing it so that they're pretty slanted over. So what we're essentially doing here is basically a body shape. So that's how I practice. I just draw in a few random little blobs like this in different places. We leave a bit of room. And what you can do from here is you can pick up a bit of darker paint and just start putting in the legs. So normally what I'll do with the figures, just make sure that the head isn't too big. You can make the head a little bit smaller and you won't be able to notice, but if you make the head too big, it's going to look funny. So a little bit of paint in the top like that. So that's probably, oops, messed that one up. We just make it a little bit bigger. But a little bit of paint up the top like that. And then with the legs, if we want to get this figure sort of looking like it's walking towards or away from the scene, we want to make one leg come forward like that and the other one just behind like that. So that's a really simple figure, and sometimes what you can do as well is just add things like maybe a bag or something that holding. Another thing is shadows, so start putting them in afterwards, but continue working on some of these other figures here. So that's just a little blob that I've drawn. So we can add another leg like that, another one behind, and that's another figure. If you join the legs up together like this, it almost looks like the figure standing on, by its side. So that's another way where you make the shoulder just a little bit smaller. It sticks out a little bit less than the front, so it kind of looks like the person's got a bit of a belly and it's just standing upright. So that's how you do a figure on the side, figure standing forwards. This one here, if you look, if the body's slanted over in this sort of way, it usually means that the person is moving forwards in that direction, maybe running. So the head you'd have to put around here. So a situation where I'd use this is maybe a figure that's crossing the road or something. So we can do the leg that comes out the front like that. Then we'll have the other leg, usually do it in two parts like that, and coming out the back like that. So put in the arms there as well like this. And tend to go back into it as well later and actually add in a little bit more details. So, I might put in some gouache here to indicate maybe the person's wearing like a white shirt or something. Maybe might be holding on to a briefcase, something like that. So it's just a little trick and a little exercise that you can use Same thing goes for here. So starting to get to the point where we've got someone that's running, and this person's almost starting to fall over. Okay. So in terms of shadows, I do the same sort of thing, usually at the same time, where I'll just essentially put a bit of a shadow underneath. So if we imagine light coming from the right-hand side, bit of that shadow running to the left like this, and just connect it on to the body. I usually do this at the same time, and I'll make the shadow a little bit lighter than the body. Well, other things you can do, you can add hair, you can add hats, that kind of thing at the same time. But what I like to do is, obviously when this area is wet for the torso, I like to start putting in all the details of the head and the legs at the same time, because that way it all blends together. If you look at these two figures, this one here, that previous layer is dried, and so the arms and the legs and things sort of stick out. So it doesn't sort of blend together as nicely as if we sort of did it that way. So that's just one sort of, I guess, technique, little trick that I do. So I can go through and show you just a few more figures that I would normally put through in a painting. So you can really just make them up. Just pop in the heads like that, and then in the leg there, another leg here. This one's just standing. Maybe he's got his arms crossed like that. Oops. But this is the thing. You've got to really make sure that everything's in proportion. The head should fit into the body 7.5 times. So you're putting in the body like that. You want to make sure that the legs aren't too long. Okay. If you've got the head and it's really big, and you've got a smaller sort of body like this, the figure's going to look more like a child. But there are different proportions and different things you should remember. I think from general figures, I guess, walking across the street, you want to look at that 7.5 rule. And this is something I practice quite often, and I'm spending a bit too much time with these, but normally I'll just basically go straight in, start putting in little details. That you can do like crowds of people as well. So couple people sort of standing together, join them up. This arm sort of side holding something. This one as well, and do the little shadow underneath like that. So really that simple. I mean, it's taken me a while to sort of get to this point where I can actually paint them in, and with relative ease. But normally when you do start off, it's going to take you a while to get that rhythm and just understand portions. So main tips I'll have as well is just look at reference pictures of figures. So if you're doing like a painting of a street scene or something, sometimes you'll be able to find a reference picture with just lots of people in it, and just pick out certain poses and things. I still look at reference pictures all the time. It's completely normal. Some of these I've just memorized, but sometimes if I want to put someone in a very particular pose, I'll always have to go back to the reference. So I find that almost I try to do these in the minimum amount of brush strokes possible. The less I kind of touch them, the better they end up looking. And sometimes, you get to a point where you do have to kind of correct them, during if you feel like a leg's a bit too small or something like that, there are opportunities to do that while the paint is still wet. But yeah, I try to get them all done in the same sort of go. There we go. And there's things you can do as well. So sometimes if I want to do a background backdrop thing of these figures, pick up a bit of blue, example, and you can go around the head, this bit more just darker, and just cut around the body. It's kind of hard to do it here because the paint is still wet, but I often, you can do this thing where you can leave a little highlight around the figure like this. Little white highlight outline kind of thing. Some areas you can sort of blend together, but that's another little way of making them kind of stand out from the background. Add in a bit more color and things here. This can be, who knows, this could be a building here, and this could be another building over on this side here. Let's think, where's the light source? Maybe the light source is coming from the right hand side. But more buildings here. Just practicing little sketches like this really helps. Okay, right, so that's about it. It's a really pretty simple exercise, I guess, with painting figures. And got one standing upright, one walking towards. One's walking towards. Sometimes you don't even need to do the individual legs. You can just join the legs together. This is enough. You're standing in a particular spot, just standing. I just draw it out like this and get the legs to sort of display out a little bit more like that. So let's put the sketchbook away. I'm going to get started on the painting. Let's do that before it's too late. This might be really a bit hard to see. I'm going to lower the brightness of the light for a little bit and then change it up later. Okay. Righto. So let's get started with this. And what I'm going to do first is that I'm actually going to pick up a lot of yellow ochre, and I'm also going to pick up some 𝗪𝗪𝗔𝗟 yellow. So a bit of 𝗪𝗪𝗔𝗟 yellow first. We'll go over the buildings, and I've got my reference photo up at the same time, so this is really going to help. So I can just buildings. I'll go into the buildings first. Just drop the yellow in like that. And I'm going to pick up a bit of the orange as well. A bit of that flowing through. And yellow, again, for the buildings. Essentially just a yellow-orange kind of mix. I'm keeping it very watery and being careful also just to not go into the sky. So if it overlaps a bit, that's fine. But I want to get in a more cooler color into the sky. So I'm going to leave that for now. Okay, so just painting all through the buildings. And what we're doing here is we're essentially just getting in the light. Any lighter colors I always do first. Just makes things a lot easier and allows you to paint the shadows afterwards. Really the only way that's worked for me. I know some people, they do the opposite and they paint the darks first. Some artists that paint the midtones even for. Find this works for me. Brush is shedding with. Okay. And just going through, here's a bit of yellow ochre. Just changing around some of these hues. Very basic. And here we get to the bottom. Everything is just going to be essentially this color. I've actually taped down, well, I haven't taped down the paper, but I've stuck some glue tack on the back of the paper. Normally I would tape it up on the sides, but been a bit lazy today and I thought I'll try this and see if it works. Okay, I'm not so concerned really about what's in this area at the back, but there is this sort of permeating orangey yellow tone that's running through, hue that's running through this whole area. So just want to make sure I get that in with. And you know what you can do as well is you can drop in some darker paint into these areas while it's still wet, like that. Just a little trick to start getting some of the darker areas in. If you want some softer shadows, especially, this works pretty well. So I'm going to just drop in a little purple over here. See what that does. Just let it mix around a little bit. Yeah. Bit in here. Just to vary things up a bit. Okay. Hair is starting to dry already. What I'm going to do before it gets too late, I'm going to pick up here a smaller brush and start working on the sky. So some cerulean blue, and I'm dropping that straight in to the sky like that. And the buildings kind of finish off around here. We want to get the yellow and the orange areas to mix in as well. So I'm going to just do this pretty quickly so I can get this all out. Bit of mixing, as you can see, going on here. Okay, just let it do its thing. As long as that doesn't mix completely. Only a bit of cutting around in areas, but for the most part, just don't worry about it. Just touch and go. Okay. More cerulean blue. I like using cerulean because it granulates very nicely. Just to get all this blue in before that orange dries completely. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just getting in all the light areas. Okay, nothing too detailed yet. You know, as you see, there's no you know, small details or anything. I'm just getting in some colors. So you know, while the sky still wet, there's another thing you can do. You can start picking up a little bit of, a little bit of thicker paint. And if you want to add a cloud or something, you can go ahead and do that. Just drop in a little bit into this section here, just in areas that you think you might want to create a cloud like that. Keep things interesting. I'm not gonna overdo it with this one because I actually want more of that cerulean to show through. But little bits and pieces I think are nice, and I'll carry that down. Yeah, just melt in. I'd barely be able to tell. Maybe a little bit of pink, a little reddish color. This cloud in the center is a little bit darker. You'll notice once it dries, it will just spread out. Okay, watercolors always dry a little bit light. Okay, stop playing around the sky now. I think that looks pretty good. And what we'll do is give this whole thing a quick dry. Let me just pause the microphone. Okay, continuing on now. Let me just 1 second. Alrighty. So next step, just to get my reference photo up. What we're going to do is essentially just put in all of the shadows. So I'll just grab this brush here. So this is a number 8 flat brush. I got a set of these brushes from Zen Art Supplies the other day, and fantastic, especially these flat brushes for getting in some nice crisp edges. So for this painting, I think I'll use these two. I've got a smaller flat brush. It's a number 6 flat brush, number 8 flat brush. I'm also going to be using a little round brush, number 4 round brush, I think. We'll get the number 8 just in case. Okay. So the first building I feel like going into is probably this one here. And what I'll do is just get in basic kind of purple color running down the side of it here. So imagining the light's kind of coming in from the right to left. So we're going to need a bit of darkness there. Okay, just mixing up some of this purple and dropping this in. Have a look, see if it's the right sort of consistency. We just want it, and I want it kind of a medium mid-tone. Okay, just going to go down the side here of the building like that. I think it's too light. You can go grab some more paint, drop it in while it's still wet. I'm just going to move that down here. Got bigger here. A bit of cutting around this here. Great. I'll look to see that's dark enough. I'm also adding a bit more blue into this. It's like shadowy areas. Okay. I generally only get one go at this. It looks best if you get it all in the first wash over the top. Okay. Usually down the bottom as well, I like to put in more color. Dark. This, especially around the figure, a bit more contrast in that. Okay. Good. And I'll start working on this building here as well. This one needs to be darkened down. Add it in. Okay, so just dropping in that paint, some more purple in. Notice I'm not using the same tones. Use sort of changing it up. Goes by them. Also just leaving the cars in same color too, because I'm not 100% sure what I'll do with them yet. Okay, there's also some little bits and pieces like on the roof. There's a bit of darker area here. I'll just quickly get that in. That shadow there. And what else have we got? We've got silo. I'm not sure what it is on top of the roof. You know, just indicate a bit of darkness running through some of those objects like that, again to indicate the light source coming in from the right. And I'm going to start working on some of these other buildings further down. Part of this building. Bring that all the way down. Bottom here. Okay. That's just to imply the side of this building, and it actually gets a little bit lighter in here. There's just a slightly lighter. I'm going to get that part of the building in here. So then leave a little slither of light running through like that. Well, okay, great. Starts looking a bit too forced. You can use a spray bottle, add a bit of water on there, encourage the colors to mix around a bit. Okay, and let's pop in a bit of a shadow here. Just a tiny bit like that. Right. The only annoying thing is that it starts to, other areas start to bleed in if you're not careful. So now just going down, I'm going to color this bit in as well. Yeah. There. Let's use the larger brush. I want to get this over and done. That. Okay. Area here too. Side of the building. A few little brush strokes like that. Leave some there for the car. Okay. Go work my way down and just keep adding some more color onto these buildings. There's areas here in the back as well where you can just indicate sides of that. Have a look at this larger one. Bit of darkness here. I need to get in one brush stroke. I think that should be okay. That actually got. Oh, that's all right. There's another building kind of running through there. That in. Just carry that. All right. Try my best to make these shadows all one general shape. You know, at this stage, you can even start popping in things like windows at here, side of that pink, door or something here as well, which we can darken down. Just something you can essentially do. The buildings and stuff in the back, I'm just going to approach with a very light wash, sort of muted, cool sort of color. Don't want to go too dark down the back. Everything down the front you want to paint lighter, darker. Everything at the back you just want to make it lighter, show that it's receding into the back. It's the way to do it. And you know, we can swap to the little round brush, start figuring out what else we want to do. There's bits and pieces here in the back, kind of trees and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter. Just keep some of that orangey color running through, just indicating trees, some branches, sap green. Doesn't really matter. You can use any color. It's quite far in the distance, so it's not something we want to pay too much attention to. Okay. Just little spontaneous sort of marks paper to indicate a few things back there. Even you can put down just indications of like windows, like this, even right at the back. But about all I'll do. Oh, I've forgotten one thing. The dome top of this. Just going to get in really the side of it. That. In pieces like this here. I think that will do it. don't want to, I don't want to go overboard. Lots of architectural details in. Just simplified this down quite a lot. All right. Looking good. I'm gonna continue on and start working on the cars now. And I'm at the darkest area. Painting. Up a bit of this color. So I want to have some shadows running on the left side of these cars. So again, let's pick up some cooler color and drop that into the left-hand side of the cars. Just a slightly cooler color. That all I'm doing, maybe a bit of cerulean blue in areas as well, because we've got all this yellow in here. We might as well put something contrasting hue that's running in there, complementary hue. And in the bottom part, where we've got the wheels, just want to blend them on to the rest of the car. Bit of that mixing, wet on wet work, blend in that. Bit of sort of shadow underneath the car. I think it's quick as well, so I'm just going to join a neutral tint. So it is just been a neutral tint. Join this one up here. Shadow on the car there. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to just up on I'm going to go into this car now here. That's too dark. Pick up some to water that down. Right. Put in some red here. Doesn't matter. Just has to be darker on the left-hand side of it. Wheels, join the wheels on this to each other. What kind of wheel at the back here as well? The shadow underneath there. Wheels. Even just start deep bits of the car, like just little brush strokes here and there to just define the hood of the car. Well, you know, we've got a figure here. I'll just put in a bit of blue like that. Essentially, just pop in the legs. This one leg forwards, the leg back here, kind of going behind the car over that side there. Not to forget the shadow as well underneath, everything up. Right. Here at the back. Join this one on. I'm just trying to get this all to mix together into one shape, all these cars, so that it's a lot easier. I'm going to just indicate the car as well. Right. As you get more and more into the distance, about a bit of color for that car, a little bit of color here, greenish or something toned there, hue, same tone. Wheels, I'm going to pop in like this. That's it. Just drop the little bit of darkness underneath the car. Connect up the wheels. Just using one brush. This is a number 8 round brush. Go. Just all done wet into wet. Sort of another car here. Also, I have to be wary just to make these more lighter back as well, especially some of the here in the distance. I'm just going to indicate one brush stroke. Those windshields out. Car here back. Looking all right. Just having a look at the shadows being cast by the cars now, and just seeing whether I want to change them up, and same with the figure. Emphasize the legs of this figure a bit more. That. Yeah. All right. Oops, that shadow needs to connect on, join on down there, here as well. And a few more figures up to this side. So I'm going to go ahead and get a bit of color in for those ones as well. Okay. Let's let that all sort of dry off, and a bit of some more blue, bit of cerulean for these two. Just some blue coming through. The legs, get in with a smaller round brush, neutral tint, pure neutral tint, and just a big indication like that. Shadow underneath too. Oops. Okay. Yeah, that. There we go. Join that on. Okay, not bad. I don't like the look of that leg at the back. It's kind of fudged that a bit, but that's all right. Indicate he's wearing like a coat or something. Black coat. That. Yeah. Get them holding something. Maybe he's holding some kind of something here. Like that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pop on some little detail for the windows. I could use. Let's try. Just a little. Okay. Yeah. Almost just dry brushed on. Effective lines on the building. Feel like it's not dark and have to do. what I'm trying to indicate here is just some light catching on that right hand side of that window. So it's not completely dark in there. Okay, there's a doorway or something there. All kinds of something or something here. Oops, too sharp. Gotta keep it right. What else have we got? Just some windows here. Get smaller all around. Just some little indications of windows running down the sides of this building. Perspective lines as well. That's what I'm on the buildings. There are just few little strokes here and there. Oh my God. There. Oh, it looks too shiny when you paint it on, but then it dries a nice kind of matte finish. So more windows, things like that. Oops. Here we go. Just finding a bits of detail put in here. On. And start working on this left-hand side of the painting now. I think it's just going to darken most of it down and grab brush. Just could be detail in here. Balcony or something. That rest of it can some little highlights on the thing. That. I'm going to cut around that lamp. Move down the page. It's funny kind of composition because the reference picture was cut off about halfway. So I thought it just would look better if I got the other part of it in. But I think I think I should have condensed it a bit more so that we had more foreground. That's quite okay. We'll make do. All right, so pretty much almost finished here. Really, the last bit I like to do is just add on finishing touches, some nice additional details, and this can take, you know, any time from 5 minutes to 5 minutes to half an hour, depending on how much work you want to do. But and I tend to work a lot with sort of dry brush strokes, just little small marks. Play around with some gouache as well. Find that sort of works quite nicely. Essentially just getting in some of the really dark areas, emphasize windows and things like that. A thing that I kind of want to do is just having a look at the reference again. Some textures and things around buildings, especially this one. I feel like spray it. Maybe if I spray it down, add a little bit of paint in there, and paint in, because there is actually a shadow being building on the right hand side. So we'll let that blend in and do its thing. Hope it doesn't muck it up. Okay. Little rigger brush. There's some marks running across some of these buildings. I feel red go into that. Birds. Just give it a quick dry off. Okay. Open up that area a bit more. And the last thing that I want to do is just put in a bit of gouache. Tube. Okay, yeah. Bigger. Ah. There is where you want sparkle. I want to overdo it though. Okay, go finish this off.